Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to read a bit more here. I'm sure this must be boring for people who are really not interested in this sort of stuff, but I think it's really vital that, I read this kind of stuff out to you because you probably won't find it. You can find it on your website. You might find it on the Citizens' Assembly on electoral reform. They may still have it up. But this was a submission made by myself and my partner at the time, Virginia Ayres, and we called it Democratic Government Electoral System Change. And it starts out this way. The abstract, as they like to call it, so you don't have to read law. The next by-election should use an experimental ballot form with none of the above nota as an option. If the voters accept the option, it should be adopted for the next provincial election in all ridings. So that was the way they chopped it up. But anyway, I'm going to read the slightly more extended version, which might give everybody a better idea. It should be understood, especially by people in the civil service, that there is no threat to their well-being whatsoever. People who are currently employed, the only people I think might be out of luck are those people who've made a career out of partisan politics, and that goes all the way from school boards who have regretfully just been co-opted by cabinet dictatorship, so they're really only carriers of bad news to the commons, and whatever they can reflect back to from the commons to the authorities is simply ignored. So that's why that system is broken down, and that's why that system needs to be replaced. Anyway, this is better government without parties. And oh dear, when was this put up? A long time ago. This would be, oh dear, I'm not sure, but a long time ago, back in 2004, I believe. 2004. My godfather, that's 6 years ago already. Anyway, better government without parties. Recommendations for the next by-election. The Chief Electoral Officer is encouraged by the Lieutenant Governor to use an experimental ballot form as he is empowered to do, and he is empowered to do that. The law is in place that he can do that. Certainly the Lieutenant Governor has a legitimate and righteous necessity to encourage this and has not done so. I've written to the Lieutenant Governor. I've got nothing like righteous replies. Maybe not this one, but certainly the last several of them. And that's all on record too. But anyway, if the majority of voters, and that's first past the post, choose nota, then a pool of nota voters is created. A man and a woman are selected randomly from the pool to represent the riding in a constituent assembly, which would replace the adversarial party alternative toward expressing the priorities for the well-being of the people and the land of riding of British Columbia. In other words, you'd have randomly selected people, just common people, who had already self-chosen to some extent by voting none of the above. They said, I don't want any of those people, which probably meant they were intelligent enough to realize that if they were given the opportunity, they would be more honest, have more integrity, and more serious considerations about the well-being of the community. And that could stretch all the way from right to left wing and up the middle too, because people do have a variety of qualities that they would like to see joined into the larger community. So, that's the whole purpose of random selection. However, a willingness to serve would be voluntary. In other words, if your number came up and you didn't think you could do the job, or even in the unlikely case that someone's number came up and they were such an idiot, then obviously we'd need to have some recall mechanism in place, and I don't think that's too much of a problem to arise at. Although there has to be some restraints on that. But we've got a practical civil service. I don't know why if I can think those things out as a common man, I don't, the thing is that, of course, the academics have all sold out pretty much, especially you could see that with these characters who were controlling the Citizens' Assembly. I mean, what a bunch. Political scientists? Oh my God, what an offense to the word science. However, that's only from a philosophical point of view. Okay, here we go. The man and the woman would serve consensually, interdependently, interchangeably in the assembly and in their riding. In addition, in each riding, a man and a woman are also randomly selected from Métis and First Nations people, specifically, I believe, hereditary chiefs and clan mothers from the United Native Nations. In any event, all people carrying social security numbers, also young people, and I think from the age of 12, given the way they're all so bright these days, should be eligible to vote. In other words, there's none of this signing up to vote nonsense. You flash your card, hey, you're in. That a security card in Canada means something. You're in. You are in. You know, that means to say that the whole wealth and freedom that is extended to Canadians everywhere is at your disposal, and that you will be treated with respect and decency, and be assured guaranteed annual income for need, and be assured housing, and be assured well-being, and all these other material things which grow out of our recognition and our love of creation and upholding creation. By the way, I am extending this letter a bit with my chat, but I always see that. Anyway, but in general, I hope I'm not being too obscure here. It's pretty straightforward. A caretaker government is formed when enough ridings have a majority voting nota in preference to party candidates or independents. In other words, if the majority of those randomly selected people exceeded the other political parties, then not only would they have the seats, but they would have the authority to form a caretaker government. And the caretaker government changes somewhat in structure, and it does that primarily by acknowledging the fact that men and women have points of view which they're best able to discuss within their own sexual parameters. And to that end, I believe that it is very vital for men and women to meet in separate circles, with the addition of randomly selected clan mothers and hereditary chiefs, or however the native people arrive around that. But also, I believe that, anyway, that's moving on to agenda. I'm not getting there yet. I'll get there in a moment, or maybe on another thing, because we're up to 7 minutes already, I see, and I'm told that people don't pay much attention after 6 or 7 minutes. Oh dear. Okay, well, I'll quickly finish this. A caretaker government deliberates initially in men's and women's councils, speaking in turn around an open circle until consensus around the issues are arrived at. Councils meet together, that is, in plenary session, to prepare appropriate changes in legislation for plebiscites and referenda to ensure the authority of the people at large. Priorities Council, that is, if something comes up that needs priorities councils, deliberate in real time, in person, in public, face to face, with implement, supplemented where necessary by guest experts and speakers. Current legislation would always be looked at in the context of individual and collective well-being. Meetings open with a drop of a feather and are divided into quadrants, north, south, east and west, reflecting geographic relationships of ridings. Agendas are decided in assembly, guiding roles are held briefly and change as topics change. Roles for each gathering are selected by nomination, self-nomination, random selection, and are chosen rather quickly, as the roles require attention in the present rather than some kind of authority from previous experience. In other words, common sense, when applied in a practical and intelligent way, with the support of a practically functional civil service, would arrive at solutions very, very quickly. Regular official polls for public opinion and individual initiatives coming from the broad mass of the people will be given serious and timely consideration. The Assembly would work in a cooperative fashion with and be responsible for all maintenance, structure and effectiveness of the civil service, with the express purpose of reducing the workload of the people of the province towards a harmonious leisure state for all. Group deliberations clarify principles and lines of reasoning should improvements in well-being of the people and land and riding of British Columbia and Canada to serve that purpose. Well, that's now 9 minutes, and I'm sure you're not really want to look at me anymore. I'll try and get some other pictures up so I can read this stuff with a voiceover anyway. Anyway, God bless. Pray for peace. Yeah, I won't talk about what happened to me with... Anyway, won't go there now. God bless. Happy trails. Oh dear, don't make me laugh. My ribs is cracked.